Welcome to Food Fraud TV, foodfraudtv.com. Check it out. So Jamie, I'm on this constant quest to educate restaurants and consumers about fake food, especially menu mislabeling, which happens constantly. So I found a restaurant just recently, Gino's Trattoria in Brooklyn, New York, 548 Flatbush Avenue. I was doing a search for wild salmon because that's really one of my main things that I go after restaurants for, is falsifying wild salmon. There's a major difference between farm salmon and wild salmon. The Norwegian government just came out with a study last year that said you should not be consuming farm salmon more than once a month because there's PCBs, there's dioxins. It's not a healthy food item. They actually said that pregnant women should not be eating it at all, based upon the contaminants that are in it and its feed. It's not a good situation, the typical farmed salmon. Most farmed salmon is not something you'd want to eat. And it's riddled with disease, so it's loaded with antibiotics and a chemical called slice, which kills lice, which a lot of times now doesn't even work anymore. Gino's Trattoria, I found wild salmon on his menu, Jamie.
Wow.
I found wild salmon on his menu, Jamie.
Wow.
$18.75. First red flag. That's way too cheap, especially in New York City, especially in Brooklyn. So Jamie, I called them. I asked the lady who answered the phone, the hostess, I said, do you have the wild salmon that's on your menu? And she said yes. She confirmed it. I heard her. I like to post phone calls. This was a very uneventful phone call because she just leaned over to somebody. You could tell she asked somebody else. They said yes. You could hear it on the phone, and then she said yes. And I said, can I speak to management? So she put on the manager. I think he was probably the owner. And then I said, I'm checking on your wild salmon. He goes, yes. I go, it's out of season. He said, okay, basically nonchalantly. It wasn't a confrontational call or anything. It wasn't anything worth posting. And I explained to him it's out of season and he's probably buying Atlantic farm-raised salmon. And he goes, oh, I know that. Just basically said, oh yeah. Okay, I know, but we have it sometimes. I said, but you couldn't have had it since, last fall. You're not going to have it until at least July, especially at that price. I said, so you're serving farm salmon? He goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, nonchalantly. So I recommended that he remove it from his menu, right? It's a logical thing to do.
Yes.
He said, sure, okay, very nonchalantly, sure, okay, right? Just went right with the flow. Like I said, I like to post these phone calls, but there wasn't any action in it. It was just very monotoned answers, and he basically blamed the girl who answered the phone and said, well, she doesn't know.
She's new here.
She's new here and she doesn't know. But she clearly asked somebody else, and it took the manager literally, Jamie, 3-4 seconds to pick up the phone once I asked for the manager, because he was standing right there. So then she asked somebody, and the manager was in the vicinity of her asking, because he picked up the phone immediately. So now, 2 weeks later, Jamie, I'm back on their website. I've asked them to remove it. Still on their website.
Really?
$18.75, wild salmon with sauteed spinach and mashed potatoes.
Way too cheap.
Way too cheap. But here's the biggest problem. He's been aware of it. He knows it. And it's still on his menu. Now, the average person, Jamie, would never call and question this again, right? Because it's on their menu. And she's just...
We're trusting that...
You're trusting that his menu's right.
Right.
And now there's health implications. There's health... The Norwegian government and other bodies of health have come out and said, do not consume farm salmon more than once a month. There's contaminants in it. It's not a food. It's not a heart healthy food, first of all. It's not a food that you want to think, oh my gosh, I'm eating this, I'm getting healthy, or I'm eating this because of the omega-3s and I'm pregnant and this is good for brain development, which they say omega-3s is, and it is. But not if you're consuming all these toxins with it. So Gino's Trattoria, you need to update your menu ASAP. You really need to do this. If you know restaurants that are in a similar situation, now keep in mind, wild salmon's not in season. It drops out of season in the fall and doesn't come back in until early summer because the Alaskan waters are closed. Sometimes further south, the Columbia River will have a spotty season up until November. But if you're at a restaurant and it's January, February, March, April, and they claim they have wild salmon. Chances are they don't, unless it's previously frozen, which is nothing wrong with that, because a lot of salmon producers, they catch for all year and they freeze it as soon as they catch it at negative 80 degrees. They cryogenic. In fact, Bruce Gore massages and back bleeds a fish before rigor mortis. It's frozen. It's super, super fresh. A lot of sushi restaurants use a frozen wild salmon for sushi, and you never could tell it's frozen because of the high technology of freezing it. So there's nothing wrong with it frozen. So the first thing you want to do is ask, oh, wild salmon I know is out of season. Are you buying this frozen? And if they say, no, it's not frozen, it's fresh, red flag right away. If it's under 20 bucks an entree, red flag right away, because it's not that cheap. You can't buy wild salmon and then sell it for under 20 bucks an entree. It just doesn't work out that way. The economics aren't there. They'd be not losing money, but they wouldn't be making nearly enough money to keep that. It's not a sustainable dish to be able to pay for the product and pay for the staff and pay for all your overhead. It's not a profitable dish at that point, unless you're doing thousands of portions and you're like a McDonald's who's just doing a small amount of profit over large portions. But in a single or a small restaurant like this, you look at their website, Gino's Trattoria NYC.com, it's not a big place. So Gino's, please remove that from your menu. Please stop misleading people. Even if you know that it's not really wild salmon, you're telling that, you're still giving off the impression that you have wild salmon on your website, and the average consumer would never, ever, ever ask. That's why you always ask questions. I'm Chef Marcus Giuliano. Thanks for watching this video. Please pass this video on if you like it. Subscribe to my channel. And do you know any restaurants that are serving quote-unquote wild salmon this time of the year in the winter? Email me at chef@chefonamission.com. Thanks for watching.